My sister was a genius. Not the kind you brag about at parties. The kind you worry about, the kind you quietly fear, even as you love them. She vanished in the summer of 2003. Not from the world, but from the spaces between, where language stops and the silence listens back. This is what happened. I was 17 that summer, busy with my own odd projects, buried in dense articles and equations while the world outside hummed through the window screens. My family was strange in its own way. My father, a neurologist, my mother, an engineer, my eldest sister, an artist. But Nirali, my little sister, she was something else. Even in a house of high bars, she made the rest of us look ordinary. She built things no one else could build. She saw the world as a puzzle, the rules not fixed but negotiable. It started quietly. One late afternoon, as the shadows thickened, I heard her voice behind me while I worked. "They're wrong, you know." I sighed, already half annoyed, half amused. "Nirali, what did we say about knocking?" She giggled. But when I turned, the room was empty. Completely, impossibly empty. Her voice floated up, closer now, right by my ear. "Right here," she teased. I spun around, heart skipping, searching for some trick, speakers, mirrors, some new experiment. But there was nothing. Just that feeling of being watched by someone you cannot see. Nirali laughed again. "No speakers. Just me." I tried to catch her out, demanded an explanation. She started talking, her favorite language, the impossible. Atomic frequencies. Post-dimensional drift. She'd found a way to walk where the walls aren't. A shimmer of meaning beyond physics, beyond anything I could follow. All I knew was that she could disappear. Not just from sight, but from the rules of the world itself. I tried to pin her down with questions, but the answers slid off the edges of my mind like dreams at sunrise. She seemed so happy in that strangeness, so delighted by her own discoveries. And then she asked, "What language am I speaking?" I blinked. "English, obviously." She giggled. "But listen closer." She spoke a line that I half recognized, something from an old text. But when I focused, the sounds beneath her words didn't match. It was as if my mind forced sense onto nonsense, meaning wrapping around something alien. She quoted Sanskrit, Latin, and no matter what she spoke, I always understood her. No accent, no confusion. Just pure meaning, flowing straight from her voice to my mind. A universal language, one no one else could hear, one that slipped past the barriers of the tongue. Nirali began to visit me like this, slipping through the walls, half here, half elsewhere. We whispered late at night, playing games with words, testing the strange new tongue she'd found. Sometimes she'd vanish for hours, then reappear, excitement shining in her invisible eyes. Other times, she'd grow quiet, voice trembling at the edges. "There are things in between," she whispered once, so faint I almost missed it. "Things that listen. Old things. Shadows behind the walls." I felt them too as she spoke, a hush, a cold draft, the sense of being overheard by something not quite of this world. Those nights, we barely spoke above a whisper. We lay side by side on the floor, hearts pounding in the hush. If we were silent, whatever listened stayed hidden. If we spoke the language, it seemed to creep closer, hungry for meaning. One night, Nirali froze mid-sentence. "Don't talk," she breathed. The room grew cold, the shadows thickening in the corners. I felt a pressure, like the air itself was listening, waiting. I stared at the red digits of my clock until dawn came, bright and thin and untrustworthy. When I finally turned, Nirali was gone. She stopped coming so often. She grew quieter, more distant. I'd wake at night and feel her presence, but she would not speak. Sometimes she'd return, shivering, eyes wide and haunted. "It's drawn to the language," she said. the shadow behind the walls. It's not alone. There are other things, bigger, older, hungrier. She spoke less and less, afraid of drawing their notice. One evening, as dusk bled through the blinds, she sat beside me, silent tears streaking her cheeks. "I can't speak English anymore," she whispered. "Not out there. Only here. Only in the between." I wanted to help her, to pull her back to the warmth of our family, to the safety of the world. But she shook her head, the sadness deepening in her eyes. "I tried," she mouthed, the words warped and hollow. "All that comes out is the language. It's all I have now. If I speak it out there, they'll find me. If I stop speaking, I'll lose myself." She pressed her face to my shoulder, her tears cold and silent. After that, Nirali grew quieter still. We stopped playing with words. We stopped testing the limits of what was possible. When I dreamed, I saw her, walking halls without doors, her voice trailing behind her like a ribbon of light. Sometimes I woke to the sound of her whispering, soft, melodic, impossible to remember. The last time she came to me, she pressed her lips to my ear and let fall a string of syllables that twisted the air. I shivered, my body aching with the coldness of them, the wrongness. But somehow I understood. "Don't tell Mom and Dad." And then she was gone. I never saw Nirali again after that summer. Sometimes, in the stillest part of the night, I hear whispers behind the walls, words that aren't words, shadows shifting in the silence. If you ever hear them, don't listen too closely. Some languages aren't meant for us. Some things, once spoken, cannot be unsaid. This next story comes from a shadowed place. Title: The Rain and the Voice. Sometimes, in the loneliest parts of the night, I answer the phone. Even when I know I shouldn't. Even when I know the number on the screen isn't anyone I know. But there's a comfort sometimes in hearing another human voice, even if it's just static and a stranger's name, and the rain tapping at my window. I didn't have many reasons to pick up the phone that night. The spam app called it out, a junk call, a waste of time. But my house was empty, and the storm was rattling the trees outside. Sometimes, when the wind howls and your heart is heavy, you'll take company wherever you can get it. The line buzzed. A woman's voice, gentle but rehearsed, filtered through the static. "Hello, is this Mr. Henderson?" I could almost hear her smile, polite and distant. My own voice felt slow and distant, too, like it belonged to someone else. "Senior or junior?" I sighed, sinking into the old armchair by the window, a half-empty bottle of wine in my hand. A pause. "Senior," she replied, the words careful, as if she was leafing through a script. Her voice, it was familiar, like an echo from a forgotten memory. "Senior died 6 years ago," I told her, a little surprised at the rawness in my own voice. A click in the background, a filing cabinet maybe. "Oh gosh. I'm sorry, sir. We didn't know. Let me check the records." Papers shuffled, soft static rose and fell. I listened, eyes closed, as the rain drummed a steady rhythm. It felt almost peaceful. We kept talking, our words drifting in and out of routine. Her questions about names, old debts, the weather. Her laughter, at first scripted, grew lighter as the conversation meandered. There was something about the way she spoke, a phrase here, a word there. It tugged at something inside me, a memory blurred by grief and time. My wife, Emily, had worked at a credit card company once, before the world changed. Before I lost her to a storm of violence I'd never really understood. Her voice had always carried a certain lightness, a secret note of hope. Could it be? "What's your last name?" I asked, voice trembling. She hesitated. "I can't give out that information." I pressed on, desperate now, my heart racing. "Did you go to Jefferson Memorial High School?" A pause. "Yes. How did you know that?" The world felt suddenly paper thin. Was it the wine, the storm, or something stranger? A moment where time and longing slipped, and the past came back for a visit? Is your mother's name Eva? The silence on the other end was heavy, and I held my breath. Then a small voice. Who is this? Somehow, I understood what was happening, even as I told myself it was impossible. Emily, listen to me, I whispered. The storm outside grew louder, thunder rippling through the woods. Somewhere between fear and hope, I told her everything, about the man she'd meet, the life they'd share, the love, and the end that would come too soon. A warning, a prayer, a story no one could ever believe. She laughed nervously. Are you one of those psychics? But I kept talking, words tumbling out like secrets. When I told her what would happen, what I'd lost, she went quiet. So what do I do? Her voice was small, frightened. But before I could answer, the line broke, a scream, then nothing but static. When I tried to call back, I found only silence. I sat awake in the stormlight, heart pounding, her voice echoing in my mind. I didn't sleep much that night. Grief has a way of circling back, no matter how long it's been. Morning came with gray light and soft rain. I woke with the memory of her voice still tangled in my dreams, gentle, laughing, alive. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. Maybe it was just a dream, or maybe the universe bent for one small moment to let her through. Sometimes, when the world is quiet, I think I can still hear her voice, soft, somewhere between rain and static, calling my name from the other side. And when I roll over in bed, sometimes I almost expect to see her there, her hand warm in mine, her eyes bright, as if she'd never left at all. Close your eyes as I share the next secret. Title: Fran and Jock, you never really expect your childhood to follow you into adulthood. Not in the literal sense, anyway. But some things, old teddy bears, old voices, old love, never quite let go. Sometimes, they're the only thing keeping you safe when the dark presses close. I was an oops baby, the very last grandkid. By the time I arrived, my grandmothers were gone, and both my grandfathers lived far away, their lives winding down in distant states. We visited when we could, but life was busy and memories blur at that age. Still, my parents wanted me to know them. They recorded my infant babble, mailed crayon scribbles, read me letters from men whose voices I could barely remember. When my grandfather's health began to fade, my mom bought 2 special teddy bears, the kind with recorders tucked in their bellies, so a message would play when you gave them a squeeze. She made sure I'd always have their voices with me, just in case. After my mom's father died, I was given a white bear with twinkling blue eyes and a plaid cap, Fran. A squeeze, and his gentle voice crackled out, I love you, Sadie. When my dad's father passed, I got the second, gray, stern, with red suspenders and a serious little face. Jock. He too whispered from his belly, I love you, Sadie. I was a child then. I put them on the shelf above my bed, where they watched over me every night. Sometimes I squeezed them, sometimes my parents did, just to hear those words. But as I grew, they faded into the background, more memory than presence. Years passed. When I left for college, Fran and Jock stayed behind, gathering dust, their voices growing fainter in my mind. My mom offered to send them along, but I shrugged her off. They're fine with you, I said. Time tumbled on. One autumn, my parents finally left for a long-awaited trip. I was left to house-sit in the old, familiar place where the creaks and groans were as comforting as lullabies. The first night alone, I ate dinner, watched TV, and drifted to sleep in my childhood room. The bears were still there, perched over my bed, exactly as I'd left them. For the first time in years, I reached up, squeezed Fran, and heard that gentle, distant voice. I love you, Sadie. I did the same with Jock. I love you, Sadie. I smiled, tucked myself in, and let sleep pull me under. The night visitor, sometime deep in the night, I woke with my heart hammering in my chest. That peculiar dread you can never quite place, like waking from a nightmare you can't recall. I rolled over, searching the darkness. And there on my pillow was Fran, my white bear, closer than he should have been. He must have fallen, I thought sleepily, reaching to squeeze him for comfort. But when I did, the voice was different. Not warm, not gentle. Cold, warning, get out. My blood turned to ice. I squeezed again, as if to chase the illusion away. Again, get out. I dropped Fran in shock. Above me, Jock turned to face the door. His voice, once loving, growled, get out. Then the voices rose, echoing back and forth, louder and sharper, filling the room. Get out! Get out! Terrified, I stumbled from my bed, hands pressed to my ears as the old, familiar voices thundered into a command. But then Jock's voice cut through, stern and urgent. I know you're down there. I froze. Down there? A floorboard creaked, somewhere below, slow and careful. Get out! The bears roared again, now furious, protective. Get out! From downstairs came a rush, footsteps, a crash, the back door slamming open, a car peeling away into the night. And then silence. Comfort and realization. I sat in the hallway, shaking, tears streaming down my face. It wasn't a dream. It couldn't be. My grandfather's voices, strange, distorted, angry, had chased someone away. After long minutes, I crept back to my room. Fran lay on his side, cap askew. Jock watched over the room, silent now, his face a mask of stone. With trembling hands, I squeezed Fran. His voice, soft, warm again, whispered, I love you, Sadie. Jock echoed, gentle as ever, I love you, Sadie. I replaced Fran's cap, set both bears back on the shelf, and stared at them through the darkness, a strange gratitude blooming in my chest. I called the police. They found signs of forced entry, confirmed a break-in, and told me I'd scared the intruder off. I didn't tell them about the bears. When my parents called frantic, I told them I was safe. Really, I said, I don't think I have anything to worry about. They wanted to come home. I told them not to. A few days later, the police caught the would-be burglar, a man who swore he'd been chased off by two crazy old men upstairs, threatening violence. But there was only me and two old teddy bears. When I returned to my apartment, Fran and Jock came with me. Now they sit on the TV stand, eyes on the door, always watching. Whenever I feel alone, I squeeze them gently, and their voices, full of love, remind me I'm never really alone. I love you, Sadie. And softly I answer, I love you both too. Here's another quiet account of the unknown. Title: The bunker in the desert. You never expect to go home and find yourself already dead. But when the world ends, strange things crawl out of the dark. This story isn't about survival, not really. It's about what's left behind and what waits for you in the place you thought was safest. My father built his own tomb, though he called it a bunker. Out in the desert, beneath a rusted sheet of land and sky, he dug himself deeper and deeper each year, stockpiling, fixing, patching the cracks in old concrete, waiting for something he couldn't quite name. I used to visit with my sister on weekends, back when we were kids. Dad's obsessions were just background noise, paranoid rants about Russians or China or whoever was next. But when the world shuttered in 2020, he was ready. He locked the steel door, said goodbye, and vanished from our lives with only an old radio to connect us. We heard from him less and less. The last time, his voice was tight, half excited, half afraid. I found a hidden door, he said. I'm going to see where it goes. And then silence. Weeks passed, then months. until worry gave way to a strange, gnawing dread. The return the desert was sweltering the night we came back. Dad's truck sat abandoned, a tarp flapping in the wind. My sister and I stood by the old steel hatch, flashlights trembling in our hands, the only spare key cold against my palm. I pounded on the door. "Dad, it's us." Josh and Evelyn. No answer, just the sound of wind and our own breathing. The key scraped in the lock. The door groaned open, and a heavy, rotten smell crept out, thick as the darkness itself. We stepped inside, down the spiral stairs, each step groaning, echoing, like the heartbeat of something sleeping far below. The power was out, batteries dead, generator silent. The old flag on the wall faded under our beams. The main chamber was cluttered and filthy, and the table was set for 3. "Who else was here?" my sister whispered, voice barely above the hum of our lights. I didn't answer. Something fell, deeper in the darkness. We called out, but no one replied. We pressed on, drawn by something we couldn't explain. The door at the end of the room, behind a hacked-away patch of wall, was a metal door, rusty, barely ajar. A musty, warm breeze drifted from the blackness beyond. We opened it together. Inside was a small room, empty but for a hole in the floor, perfectly round, deep as forever. We couldn't see the bottom. My sister dropped a can inside. It rattled, clanged, and faded, vanishing into silence. I felt heat on my hand when I held it over the pit. It was like breathing from some ancient furnace, older than the bunker, older than the desert. "Maybe he fell," my sister said, but we both knew that was a wish, not a possibility. We searched on, through the shadowed halls. And then, I found the body. It was me, or someone who looked just like me, dead on the floor, face half rotted, a bullet hole in the skull. My mind buckled. My sister screamed. We ran, tripping, stumbling, cans rolling underfoot, shadows lengthening all around. And then from the black, a voice called out, "Josh!" It was Dad. I killed the son of a bitch, put a bullet right between his eyes. He sounded far away, maybe trapped, maybe lost. "Come out, Dad. We have to leave. I can't move. I'm stuck under a shelf. I'll need your help, son." I turned to my sister. She begged me not to go, but I couldn't help myself. Not after everything, not after finding myself dead on the floor. What was left behind, I found Dad, sitting slumped on the small toilet, gun hanging limp from his hand, the wall behind him splattered red. His journal lay in his lap, blood-soaked and trembling under my touch. Still, his voice echoed from the darkness. "Josh, help me. I need your help, son." All I could do was stare at the impossible. I was surrounded by the dead, but their voices would not die. I found my sister, pale and shaking, staring at a crumpled body in the corner. Her own face, neck twisted, eyes glazed. There was nothing left for us here. We fled into the night, the desert swallowing our screams, the voices in the bunker calling after us, never fading. Aftermath we tried to forget, but the dark followed us home. I waited days before opening Dad's journal. The last pages were scrawled with terror and confusion. Found a hidden door. Deep pit, maybe old military project. Josh and Evelyn visited, felt strange. It isn't them. They tried to make me illegible. I shot the son of a bitch. Hiding now. Only got one bullet left. My sister has been cooking for hours. She just called for me from the kitchen. "Josh, come here. I want to show you something. Some places should never be opened. Some voices should never be answered. And sometimes, the past finds a way to follow you home, even after the end of the world. So when someone calls your name in the dark, listen close. Make sure it's really them. Before you go any closer, Let's drift into the next strange occurrence. Title: The Man in Seat 43A. Sometimes you find yourself in the most unlikely places. 30,000 feet above a dark and endless ocean, volunteering for something no one else wants. Sometimes you sit beside the dead, and sometimes, if you're unlucky, the dead look back. It began with a simple question, drifting down the aisles of a night flight. Is there anyone willing to change seats, just for a few hours? Most people looked away, grateful not to be chosen. But I was tired and lonely, a little numb, with my vacation plans already ruined by fate. So I said yes and gathered my things, walking down the silent aisle toward the very last row. The man in seat 43A had died quietly somewhere over the Atlantic. A heart attack, they said, or maybe just the silent will of the universe. Flight attendants tucked a blanket gently around him, covered his face, folded his hands, and left him waiting by the window for someone to sit beside him as the plane turned back toward New York. I had never been afraid of death. I'd seen my grandmother in her casket as a child, her face peaceful, her hands soft. But this was different. Mr. Molyneux was only a shape beside me, blanketed, silent, strapped in place. His hands lay folded on his lap, pale, twisted by whatever pain had found him in the end. I tried not to look. I closed my eyes and listened to the hush of the engines, and at last drifted to sleep. Turbulence. When I woke, everything felt wrong. The lights were dim. Outside the window, only blackness, a void that swallowed every thought. But something was out of place. The blanket looked twisted. His posture was changed, as if the body had shifted while I slept. I felt a chill. My breath came slower as I reached, almost without meaning to, and lifted the edge of the blanket. I saw the shirt, unbuttoned, blue-gray skin beneath. The collar, flecked with something dark and dried. And then, as I lifted the blanket higher, I saw that Mr. Molyneux's head had turned, not toward me but toward the window. His face was hidden, but in the glass, his reflection stared back at me, eyes open, unblinking, pale and hollow. But his eyes, they were moving, back and forth, slowly, deliberately, tracking something in the darkness beyond the glass. For a long time I simply watched, my mind lost somewhere between fear and curiosity. I told myself it was a trick, some reflex, some quirk of the body after death. But I knew it wasn't. A woman across the aisle interrupted my thoughts, her voice sharp and insistent. Cover him back up. Give him his peace. I stammered a reply, tried to explain, but the words faltered. There was nothing sane to say. The plane jolted, throwing everything into confusion. Passengers woke, lights flickered, and outside the sky shifted, dark green, swirling like a bruise spreading through the clouds. Storm. The turbulence grew wild. The whole plane shook and rattled as if the air itself was falling apart. I looked at Mr. Molyneux, his head thrown forward by the jolt, then impossibly, twisting back toward the window, neck bent at an angle no living man could bear. His hands seemed to tighten, the blanket fell to the floor. Outside, the darkness churned. Strange, shapeless forms moved in the fog, or maybe it was just my fear, making monsters out of shadows. The plane lurched. Molyneux's body whipped back and forth, seatbelt creaking, head thudding, again and again, against the glass. Passengers cried and prayed, flight attendants crawled in the aisles, and all I could see was that pale dead face, eyes never leaving the sky. I tried to hold him steady, to stop the relentless pounding, but I could not move him. He was stronger than I ever imagined, or maybe it was the storm, or something else, guiding his body toward the window. A crack, the glass bent outward, splintering, then gave way with a thunderous snap. Descent alarms blared, oxygen masks dropped. I fumbled for mine, the world narrowing to the cold rubber against my skin. The wind howled. Loose objects flew through the cabin, and Mr. Molyneux's head vanished outside, dragged by something I could not see, his body following, stopped only by his seatbelt. I stared at those empty eyes one last time, and in them I saw not terror, but longing, as if he had found something out there, something waiting in the night. With trembling hands, I unclasped his seatbelt. There was a sickening crunch as his body squeezed through the window. And then he was gone, falling end over end into the black and endless sea. I whispered into the sudden quiet, "Whatever you saw, go to it. Leave us be." The green storm faded. The plane descended. The chaos ebbed into exhaustion and disbelief. We landed at last, battered but alive. The news called it a freak accident. A weather anomaly, they said. Nothing to explain, nothing to fear. But every night, as I close my eyes, I see Mr. Molyneux at the window and wonder what waits for us in the darkness above the ocean. The next story might feel a little too real. Title: Yoga for One. It's strange, the places we go when we're alone. The things we find when we're searching for something, motivation, distraction, or maybe just company. Sometimes we stumble on a quiet corner of the internet and something reaches back. I discovered her channel during a long stretch of lonely afternoons, the kind that feel endless when time puddles in the corners of your room. Her stream was called Yoga for One. I'd never done yoga, not once, but her thumbnail caught my eye, just a close-up of her face, too near the camera, all freckles and shy, lopsided smiles. Her apartment was always dim, a little messy, with wilted plants on the floor and stacks of old magazines. She guided me, us, through a series of gentle poses, her instructions weaving between yoga and stories. Press your heels together, breathe deep. My feet smell like peaches today. Did you ever bite into a peach and feel the sun inside it? I was her only subscriber. Just me, and the blue light of my laptop, and the sound of her voice drifting through the static. Deepening days slipped by. I kept returning to her channel, at first out of curiosity, then out of habit, and then because I felt I had to. She was always streaming. I never saw her leave, never saw her sleep. She bent and stretched, whispering about old memories. "Do you want to see me fold into a pretzel?" she asked one afternoon, her smile flickering like candlelight. I tried to follow along, but my body was heavy and uncooperative. Sometimes she would glance at the camera, as if she could really see me, just for a moment, like she knew I was there. "You've been watching me," she said one night. "How far do you want me to bend?" My life fell into a rhythm. I forgot to eat, forgot to sleep, waking up on the couch to the sound of her voice, soft and endless as rain. The change, and then the poses became impossible. She twisted herself into knots, arms looping behind her back, legs folding, spine arching in shapes that seemed to break the rules of the human body. Her smile was brittle, her eyes wide and shining. "Am I your foldable pocket toy, Mr. Smith?" she teased, her voice suddenly sharp. That night, I slammed my laptop closed, but I couldn't stay away. There was a guilt, a gnawing loneliness, as if she'd been left alone in the dark and only I could save her. When I came back, the room was empty. Just the yoga mat, the scattered magazines. From somewhere off-screen, I heard a muffled sound, not laughter, not crying, just a fragile, wordless moan. The disturbance yesterday, she stared into the webcam, so close her tears blurred the screen. Her foot was stuffed in her mouth, her arms twisted, her body locked in a desperate, impossible shape. She was trapped. She couldn't speak. But her eyes found mine, and in that moment, I felt a cold wave of responsibility wash over me. I typed, "Can you type your address?" She shook her head. "Can you type with your nose?" Slowly, painfully, she pressed her face to the keys. A string of gibberish, then at last a number. We worked together for an hour, letter by letter, until she had managed to type her street, her apartment number, collapsing with the effort. "What city?" I begged, but she couldn't answer. She vanished off screen. All I could do was watch the empty room and wait. The truth, I called every police station in every city with that address, explained the story again and again, and waited for news. Finally, late at night, the phone rang. A quiet voice told me what I already knew, somewhere deep inside. "We found her. She was just as you described, but she's been dead for a month." I stared at the empty room on my screen, watching the sunlight creep across the dusty magazines, and wondered who I had been saving all those long, endless nights, and who, if anyone, would be there if I turned the stream off again. Here's a tale to keep you company in the dark. Because you are my baby, some stories are sung quietly, under the hush of the moon, in the soft, wild dark where the trees have secrets and mothers have more teeth than smiles. This is my story, and hers, because I am her baby. I remember my mother's teeth before I remember her face. White and long, gleaming in the moonlight, shining bright as bone when she grinned down at me, her baby, stolen from a man and cradled in the forest. She told me our story, not a fairy tale, but a true story whispered between shadows. She took me for revenge. Not for love, not at first, but for something darker, a wrong she would never speak. But when I was small, curled against her warmth, I begged her to tell me why. She would only stroke my cheek, voice low and wet and loving, her teeth bright in the starlight. Because you are my baby. My baby will never hear or see or know the cruelties that haunt me. A wild childhood mother was a huntress, her claws sharp, her movements silent, her smile always half secret. She could bring down elk, bears, fish monsters from the lakes with her teeth alone. She tried to teach me everything, but I was too soft, my body weak, my hands clumsy. My teeth could not break bone, and my heart was too tender for the kill. One night, after failing again, I wept among the leaves. Mother found me, covered me with fresh leaves, and lay beside me, whispering, "I will feed you always, because you are my baby." Learning the forest mother lived everywhere, sometimes under the earth, her bones stretching like old roots. Sometimes up in the branches, her skin tangled with bark and sap. She tried to teach me how to dig, how to climb, how to become a shadow in the wild. But I was afraid of the cold, of the bugs, of the night's crawling things. So she made a burrow just for me, lined it with leaves, and slurped the earth clean. I cried, ashamed. "Why do you do everything for me?" She only wrapped her arms around me, gentle and ancient. "Because you are my baby." Growing apart as I grew, I learned a little, to snare rabbits, fish the streams, pick berries gently, taking as little as I could. Mother stayed away longer. I missed her with a panicked ache. When I accused her of leaving, she only said, "I will never leave you. When you think I've left, listen for me the way I listen for the trees, the animals, the stars. If you are silent and sincere, you will hear me." Then she left. In my loneliness, I lashed out, hurt the forest, stripped leaves through stones. The wildness in me was a storm. And that's when I heard voices, not her voice, but others, voices like mine, but not hers. The men in the woods, I found men in the woods, soft, pink, with wide eyes and little teeth. They saw me, and in their shock, the forest grew terribly silent. I ran. They chased me. They shouted, cursed, called me a monster. Pain struck my shoulder, a gunshot. The forest punished me. Brambles, stones, branches clawed at my face. When the men nearly caught me, I screamed for Mother. She answered. She came from the trees like a nightmare, all claws and teeth and rage. She tore the men apart for me, for her baby. The forest awoke again, loud and alive. But when I tried to run to her, she reared up in anger. "See what you've done." Mother's grief, her fury, was wild and sorrowful. She lifted me up, shook me. "When you hurt the forest, you hurt me. I killed for you. Now more will come. Do you see?" I did. She set me down, opened her hand, for eyes and a heart, the remains of the men. "Are you of me?" she asked. "Or are you of man?" Trembling, I ate the eyes and the heart, a terrible, sacred act. I was ill for days, mother lying beside me, singing old, sad songs until the fever broke. A final lesson when I woke, she was tired. "I must leave," she said. Men would come again, and she would fight for the forest and for me. I begged her to stay, but she only said, "You are my baby. Babies must learn. By learning they grow." She told me the truth at last, her story of cruelty, her life as a human woman, hurt and discarded, her body destroyed, her spirit remade by the forest's ancient song. She took me from my cruel father, brought me to the wild. "When you are silent and you are sincere, you will hear me." Then she was gone. Winter's silent seasons turned. Mother did not return. I survived as best I could, cold, hungry, afraid. At last, as I lay near death, I finally heard her voice. "I am coming, because you are my baby." She returned, wounded, dying. Her last words were gentle. "You are of me. You are my baby." Then she was gone. Among men I was found by a hiker, brought among men. Authorities said mother was not my real mother, just a crazy, homeless woman. But I know better. I learned to live among men, but my mouth began to change. My teeth grew long and sharp, just like hers. When I am silent and sincere, I still hear her, her wild, rushing song. She tells me the forest is waiting. She tells me she is waiting for me, because I am her baby. Another voice in the dark, another secret to tell. They paid me 5,000 to go through hell it started, as nightmares often do, with an innocent wish. A simple, desperate hope for a way out. I was broke, alone, and fading quietly into the corners of the world. Just one more person forgotten by everyone but the landlord and the bank. And then I saw the ad. Revolutionize science. Earn 5,000. Call now. I thought it was a joke. I wish I'd kept scrolling. The offer, it was winter when I called, the kind of winter that soaks into your bones, makes you feel brittle and hollow, like you might shatter if anyone looked at you too closely. The voice on the other end was too friendly to be real, but I didn't care. I gave my name, my history, every detail they wanted. My rent was overdue, my fridge was empty. Desperation softens your instincts, makes you trust even strangers who won't give you their names. The interview was in a glass building that rose out of the city like a glacier. They led me underground, past security and blank doors, into a room humming with fluorescent light and the quiet panic of too many machines. That's where I saw the chamber. It looked almost alive. A suit of steel, open like a silver rib cage, threaded with wires and pipes and screens. It didn't look like a tank or a spa or anything soft or gentle. It looked like something built to last for centuries or to erase centuries altogether. There were doctors or people who dressed like doctors. One man introduced himself, Dr. Mona-san. He was bald, sharp, and calm. He told me I'd be helping the future. He told me I'd be safe. He told me all I had to do was let them put me in the machine and stay there for 3 days. 2. The rules: I'd used a sensory deprivation tank before. Back in college, searching for something to believe in, I'd floated in a tank of salt water, waiting for enlightenment or at least a good story. It was boring, cold, itchy, silent. I'd lasted 45 minutes before getting out, hungry for pizza and noise. But this was different. Dr. Mona-san explained how their chamber would work. No hunger, no thirst, no movement, everything automated. Tubes for food and water. Catheters, wires, sensors. A numbing agent so powerful, it would sever my brain's last tie to my body. Even my breath would be controlled. It is complete isolation, he said, his voice echoing against steel. No sensation. No distraction. Pure consciousness alone. I asked if it was dangerous. He smiled. Not physically. The machine will care for your body. All we ask is for your mind. They gave me forms to sign. Endless pages of waivers and warnings. Hallucinations. Anxiety. Depression. Suicidal thoughts. Time dilation. Dissociation. The words swam on the page, but I signed anyway. What else could I do? They wanted people with no attachments. No family. No job. No pets or plants to miss them. I fit perfectly. 3. Sinking in the day of the experiment, they shaved a patch on my arm and started the 4. I stripped to my skin, cold under the sterile lights, and lay down in the machine's rubber cradle. They placed the helmet over my head, sealing me inside. I heard the world get farther and farther away, shrinking to a pinpoint. The last sound was Dr. Mona-san's voice, piped through a tiny speaker. You may feel anxious at first. That will pass. Focus on your breath. But even my breath was not my own. The machine pressed in on all sides. Wires. Tubes. The soft pressure of rubber, closing like a coffin. A timer blinked above my face, reflected in the metal curve. 00:00:10. 00:00:09. 00:00:08. I tried to move. I couldn't. I tried to scream. Nothing. Midnight. The world disappeared. 4. The dark. There are different kinds of darkness. The darkness of night is gentle, full of moonlight and the rustle of trees. The darkness of closed eyes is colored by dreams and the echo of the day. But this was a darkness so deep, it pressed against my mind, swallowing every stray thought. At first, I tried to remember how many seconds had passed. I counted 1, 2, 3, 4. But seconds stretch in the void. Minutes become hours. Hours become days. Time lost all meaning. Without sensation, the mind drifts. I thought about my life. All my mistakes, my failures. Every friendship I'd let fade, every job I'd left behind. Was I dead? Had they lied to me? Maybe I'd signed my life away for 5,000, and all that was left was this. I think, therefore I am. I whispered, but there was no sound, not even in my head. I tried to picture my body, curled in the darkness, floating unmoored. Sometimes I imagined myself drifting through space, stars spinning in the black. Sometimes I felt nothing at all, not even myself. The mind's tricks, they warn me about hallucinations. But no one can warn you about the shape your own mind takes when it is set loose. I saw colors blooming in the dark, impossible colors, sharp as knives. I heard music, faint and familiar, the tune my mother hummed when I was small. I felt hands on my face, lips on my ear, the whisper of voices long dead. But the worst was the feeling that I was being watched, that I was not alone. Somewhere in the endless void, something was waiting for me to lose myself completely. I felt panic, sharp, bright, but useless. The machine would not let me move, not even to shiver. Time stretched, then twisted. Sometimes I thought I'd been there for years, eons, forever. Sometimes I thought the experiment had barely begun. The only thing that anchored me was the hope that it would end. 6. The return, I don't know how long it took. Maybe 3 days. maybe a lifetime. But then I heard it, a sound. Bells ringing gently, far away but coming closer. Dr. Monason's voice followed, calm and distant. You have completed the experiment. Congratulations. We're opening the chamber now. Light broke over me, white and blinding. I wept, though my tears came slowly like a memory. My muscles trembled as sensation flooded back. Hands lifted me out of the machine, gentle as nurses, cold as strangers. They fed me soup. They washed my body, spoke in soft voices, asked questions I could not answer. What did I feel? What did I see? I could not explain the darkness. Could not explain the sense that part of me had been left behind, floating endlessly, still counting seconds in the void. 7. The after they paid me. $5,000 direct deposit. I paid my rent, bought groceries, got a new job, started seeing someone. People smiled at me, but their faces seemed unreal. The city was loud, colorful, but felt distant, as if I were seeing it through thick glass. I started therapy. The therapist said it was trauma, nothing more. My mind's way of coping with isolation. I nodded, took the pills, slept with the lights on. But at night, when I closed my eyes, I worried. Worried that I was still in the machine. That this life was just a dream my mind made to comfort itself. I would wake in the darkness, breathless, waiting for the bells to ring again. 8. The question sometimes I see Dr. Monason in my dreams. He asks me questions over and over, his voice calm and patient. Does this feel real? Are you sure you are awake? What did you see in the dark? I never know how to answer. Because sometimes I close my eyes, and I become too afraid to open them. Because I know that when I do, I might see only darkness. Still floating, still waiting, forever. Listen as another story unfolds. The monster under my bed isn't always there to scare you when I was little. The nights in my house always felt longer than anywhere else in the world. The moonlight that slipped past the curtains painted strange shadows on the walls. My bed was an island in an ocean of darkness, the sheets a fortress between me and all the things I couldn't see or name. Sometimes I would lie awake for hours, listening to the sounds that old houses make after midnight. The whisper of wind against the window, the gentle creak of the floorboards, and the softer, stranger sounds that only a child's ears seem to notice. It was on a night like that, tucked up with my knees hugged to my chest, that I first heard the voice from underneath my bed. At first, I thought it was my imagination, that curious, dreamy part of a child's mind that invents stories to fill the dark. But then it came again, a deep, rough, crackling whisper that made the mattress tremble, ever so slightly. "Hey," the voice called out, so soft I almost missed it. I froze. My heart beat a quiet rhythm against my ribs. I told myself it was nothing, but the voice returned, just a little louder this time, more insistent. "Hey kid." The words floated up from the shadows beneath my bed, curling in the cold air of my room like smoke. I burrowed deeper beneath my blanket, letting the worn flannel shield me from the world. But curiosity has a way of pushing past fear, especially when you're young and the world is still full of possibilities. With a trembling whisper, I asked, Who are you?" The voice didn't hesitate. "I'm the monster underneath your bed." I think I laughed nervously at first. "You mean you're real?" I tried to make my voice sound braver than I felt. "What do you mean?" said the monster, as though the very idea was silly. "Of course I'm real." I bit my lip. "Do you have a name?" I asked. There was a pause, then a faint rattle of movement, like claws softly scraping wood. "Of course I have a name," the monster replied. My fear faded a little, replaced by a strange, childish hopefulness. "Oh well, what is it?" Frank, he said simply. That wasn't the answer I expected. Frank, a little sigh from below. Yeah. Is there something wrong with that? No, I said, stifling a giggle. It's not very monster ly. He huffed, offended. Well, my parents didn't want me to be a monster. This was new. Really? What did they want you to be? A dentist, Frank said. And the way he said it made me imagine a monster in a white coat, peering into children's mouths with a tiny mirror and a big, toothy smile. That made me laugh, a real, small laugh, the kind that only happens at night, when your parents are asleep and the world feels softer. Frank waited a moment, then asked, What do your parents want you to be? I hesitated. I don't know. I guess I never asked. There was a silence, filled only by the hush of the wind and the soft ticking of the old clock in the hallway. Hey, Frank? I asked finally. Yeah. Aren't you going to, scare me or something? There was another sigh, long and heavy. What? Why would I do that? Well, you're a monster, aren't you? Frank considered this. Well, yeah, of course I am, but that doesn't mean I scare little kids. I blinked. But isn't that your job? Frank's voice became serious. It is my job to scare people, but only bad people. Am I a bad person? My voice was small and unsure. Frank's answer was gentle. No, but you're not the one I'm here to scare. The long night, the shadows seemed to thicken at those words, pressing in around the bed. A chill prickled along my skin, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Then, who are you here to scare? I whispered, the words catching in my throat. For a long moment, Frank said nothing. Then, in a tone lower and rougher than before, he answered, The man inside your closet. I lay frozen, staring at the closet door across the room. The old wooden one that sometimes creaked in the night, that always felt just a little bit too deep, too dark. My mind tried to brush it off as another one of Frank's stories, a joke between new friends. But then I heard it. A soft rustling, like clothes brushing together. The creak of hinges, slow and heavy. A breath, thick and wheezing, far too close. The doorknob turned with a gentle click, and the door edged open just enough for something, or someone, to slip through. I squeezed my eyes shut, gripping the blankets, wishing myself invisible. I heard footsteps, padding across the old wood floor, quiet and careful. The footsteps stopped right next to me. There was a moment where the only sound was breathing, deep, ragged, close enough to fog a window. And then the blanket was torn away, ripped from my hands with a sharp, hungry motion. I curled into a ball, bracing for whatever would come next. What came was a scream. Not mine. A scream so raw and desperate it rattled the glass in the window. I peeked through my fingers, heart hammering. I saw a shape, just a flash, tall and hunched, silhouetted against the moonlight. A knife glinted as it fell, skittering across the carpet. Something lunged from the shadow under my bed. Something enormous and fast. There was the shatter of glass, the shriek of pain, the crash of someone diving through the window. Then silence. Except for the soft, reassuring growl of Frank, settling back into the darkness. The aftermath, my parents rushed in, startled from sleep, faces pale and panicked. They found me on the floor, tangled in my blankets, shaking but unharmed. They asked me what happened. I told them, in a voice that barely sounded like mine, that someone had been hiding in my closet, that someone had tried to hurt me. They called the police, and the night was filled with flashing lights and questions I struggled to answer. Later, they told me they caught the man running through the neighborhood, bleeding and wild-eyed. He had a car hidden in the woods, filled with things I didn't understand: tape, knives, strange medicine, a camera. I heard my parents whisper words like lucky and guardian angel and never again, but I knew the truth. Whispered goodbyes I never heard from Frank after that night. No more voices beneath the bed. No more strange, midnight conversations about parents and dentists and dreams. I wondered sometimes if I'd imagined him, if he was just the shape of my fear, made kind by loneliness. But a few months later, I overheard a police officer talking quietly to my mother in the hall. He said the man who'd tried to hurt me was now locked away, in a place for people who can't tell dreams from waking. He sleeps on the floor, the officer said, shaking his head. He won't go near the bed. Says he's terrified of someone named Frank. I still sometimes lie awake, years later, listening to the hush of the wind and the creaks of the old house. I still keep my closet door closed tight, just in case. And though I haven't heard Frank's voice in a very long time, I like to think he's still out there somewhere, watching over the beds of children who need him most. Because not all monsters are there to scare you. Some of them are there to keep you safe. Here's another story to drift off to. The survey at the end of the night, they say you never really know the shape of the bottom until you reach it. Mine came quietly, settling around me like a gray fog, filling the rooms, swallowing the hours, stretching the nights. Sometimes, the world feels so empty you can hear the echo of your own heartbeat in every shadow. That was the mood I carried with me on the night the questions began. A tired body, a scattered mind, and a hunger for anything, work, distraction, meaning, that would fill the endless, sleepless dark. I had lost more than I could name. My job gone. 10 years of routine swept away by a stranger's signature. Love gone too in the arms of my replacement. The future, a blank page, all debts and empty boxes. So I did what many lost souls do when the world becomes a little too quiet. I filled the silence with the flickering blue glow of a computer screen. I signed up for surveys, small tasks, tedious and mechanical, clicking, answering, filling out boxes for the promise of small rewards. $5 cards, coupons, drips of money that would never quite fill the well. It went on for hours. My mind ached, my eyes burned, but I pressed on, stacking small victories into the shape of survival. That's when I noticed it, a plain little banner at the corner of the screen. Surveys for cash. Just that. Simple. White on black, like an old warning scrawled on a forgotten wall. Somehow it felt like an invitation written just for me. I clicked. The first question the survey began like all the others. Name, age, the usual questions about work and life. It asked my height, my weight, things that felt a little odd, but nothing worth worrying about. Then came the first real question. How strong is your urge to look behind you right now? The words felt heavier than they should have. I paused, listening to the old house breathe. The darkness behind me felt alive, heavy with possibilities. I told myself it was nothing. Still, I waited a moment before glancing over my shoulder. Nothing there. Just my own tired shadow in the lamplight. I selected neutral and moved on. Descending questions the next question. Why would you look behind you? I shrugged, typing, I don't know. Clicked next. Another question appeared, the words twisting ordinary scenarios into strange shapes. You're on a plane. Apart from you, there's only one other passenger, somewhere behind you. At some point, you get up to go to the restroom and find the man is gone. You check the bathroom, but it's empty. What do? I stared at the words, unsure if I was being tested or taunted. I don't know, I answered. And on it went. The questions slid quietly from the odd to the unsettling. You wake in strange woods. Moonlight just barely lights your way. A woman in the doorway of a lonely cabin beckons you inside. Do you go? Why? I answered honestly, yes. Because there was nowhere else to go. But the questions kept coming, winding deeper and darker with each click. Suppose you wake to find an elevator in your house. Each midnight it opens for 5 minutes, revealing an exact copy of yourself, each night more battered and broken. Do you keep living like this, or enter the elevator once and end it all? You're in a hotel room, awakened by knocking at your window. A man with no eyes mouths something through the glass, begging you to kill the woman hiding in your bathroom. Do you listen? You watch home videos with your mother. One tape shows her being murdered by a masked intruder. She laughs as she watches. Is this cause for concern? Every question pressed a finger to the fragile glass between my world and something stranger. The world bleeds in at some point. The questions felt less like a game and more like a warning. There was a knock at my door, a sharp, frantic tapping that sent my heart leaping to my throat. Through the peephole I saw a man. He was pale and wide-eyed, shaking his head, mouthing no. No. I backed away, my hand trembling on the lock. Moments later, my phone began to ring. The auditor read the caller ID. I let it go to voicemail, but each message was the same. A distorted voice counting, howling numbers through waves of static. I could hear faint scratching from the vent, as if something wanted in. I slid the couch across it, blocking whatever lay beyond. The questions continued. My answers grew shorter. My vision tunneled, fear wrapping itself around my thoughts. Each time I considered closing the screen, an inexplicable dread compelled me to keep going. The final statement eventually, the survey came to an end. There were no more questions. Just a single line, glowing on the page. Don't let them in. They're not to be trusted. A knock, gentle but insistent, sounded at the door. I crept toward it, slow and silent, and peeked out. This time it was a woman, young, wrapped in a heavy coat, dark glasses masking her gaze despite the summer heat. She didn't knock again. Instead, she slipped a piece of paper beneath the door and waited. I stooped and read the message. It's lying. Leave your apartment immediately. Her shoes remained in the strip of light beneath the door, waiting unmoving. Behind me, I heard my bedroom window rattle open, the hinges whispering secrets to the night. Something soft and broken began to mutter on the other side. I dragged a chair to wedge the door closed. Sat on the floor, back against the wall, breath shallow and cold. The waiting, that's where I am now. Neither in nor out, caught between a warning and a promise. The woman is still there, her shadow pressed to the floor, as if waiting for my decision. The computer screen still glows, the last line repeating itself in the corner of my vision. Don't let them in. Behind the door, something shifts, sighs, and waits with me. I can't look at the screen anymore. I can't bring myself to answer the door. I listen to the distant sounds of the city, the wail of sirens, the hum of traffic, the muted laughter of strangers passing below. None of it feels real. It's just the waiting, the question, and the dark. Rock bottom isn't what I thought it would be. Not emptiness, but the feeling that the world is watching, waiting for you to choose, to let something in, or to keep it out forever. In the end, I am still here, holding my breath. And the questions have only just begun. Another story whispered in the darkness, the side's secret. A whispered journey with the Reaper. There is no fear like the fear of what waits just beyond the last breath. No monster in the shadows, no nightmare under the bed, can rival the shivering chill of the unknown. But sometimes, in the hush between heartbeats, the thing we dread most is not death itself. It's what might be waiting on the other side. Part 1. The last light. I used to think of death as a darkness, an endless, silent ocean, unknowable and cold. That final place where memories dissolve and the world grows quiet. We speak of it in whispers, trace its outline in myth and medicine, but we never truly see it. Not until it's time. As I lay in a hospital bed, The world seemed to slip further away with every faint pulse in my wrist. Machines clicked softly in the background, their beeps growing slower, quieter, more distant. The faces around me blurred into fog and shadow. Pain faded into numbness, and numbness became a kind of peace. In that last moment, I found myself unafraid. I tried to remember why we cling to life with such trembling desperation, why we fight for every breath, even when each one brings more sorrow. I told myself, death is not the thing to fear. Death, at least, is understood. But as the room dimmed and the hush thickened, a single doubt echoed through my mind. What if death isn't the end? What if something else is waiting, just out of sight? Part 2. The black cloak. Suddenly, I wasn't alone. A presence gathered at the edge of the room, soft at first, then impossibly vivid. As the world around me grew thinner, a figure beside my bed grew sharper, more real, as if he'd been painted in black on a fading canvas. He wore a cloak that swallowed light, not black as ink or coal, but the idea of black, a darkness deeper than shadow, deeper than memory. He stood tall, quiet, ancient. His eyes, hidden beneath the hood, seemed to see through time itself. He carried a scythe, its blade gleaming like the edge of a dream. But this was no tool for harvest, no grim symbol of endings. The air bent around it. The scythe parted the thin layers between worlds, like a finger drawing lines in water. I understood, without words, that this was death himself. Or perhaps just the guide. He radiated a presence so strong, so utterly real, that everything else, hospital, family, pain, regret, washed away like chalk in the rain. I tried to speak, but my voice dissolved before it reached my lips. "You're late," the Reaper said, not with sound, but with a thunderous certainty that filled my mind. "We don't have time for the usual speech. Hurry now." Part 3. The descent. Suddenly we were moving. The world stretched and blurred. Walls and streets flickered past like frames in an old film, and I was swept along beside him, weightless, breathless, as if I had become nothing but a memory. The world lost its shape. We passed through places I didn't recognize, silent tunnels, ancient stone, wind whispering across cold earth. Somewhere beneath it all, a terrible howling began, a noise so deep it shook the bones of the earth. "If you're lucky, IT will have grown bored of waiting for you," Death said. I tried to ask what he meant, but the words never formed. "You're quiet." I admire that. Usually people ask too much. I managed a single question, a child's question, small in the face of eternity. "What is the point of all this?" How could I understand? You can't. But it is human nature to ask. We descended further, deeper than I thought the world could go. The air thickened, the dark pressed closer. "What is here besides you?" I whispered. Death's voice filled the empty spaces, softer now, but with a sorrow that lingered. Death is not a person or a place. It is all there is, but it is not all that waits. The howling grew louder. Something else moved in the deep, something ancient and hungry. Part 4. The thing in the dark. We reached a vast cavern, a hollow beneath the world, where a black lake shimmered with impossible light. Death raised his scythe, and the air cracked and split, revealing glimpses of something beneath the surface, something that writhed and twisted just out of sight. I realized with a chill that the scythe was not meant for me. It was a weapon, a ward, a shield, meant to keep the thing in the dark at bay. Death turned to me, and for a moment, I could almost see his eyes. "I am not here to take you," he said. "I am here to protect you from what waits beyond." Hands, cold and slick, reached up from the water and grabbed at my ankles, pulling me down. The Reaper's scythe flashed, splitting the darkness, keeping the hands at bay. Still they reached for me. Still I was dragged down, deeper, toward a light that burned at the bottom of the lake. What is IT? I cried. What is happening to me? Death's voice faded, distant and weary. I'm sorry. I couldn't fight IT off this time. We'll try again next time. The hands closed around me. The water became fire. The world became sound and pressure and light, blinding, burning, endless. Part 5. The journey's end. I screamed, but my scream became a cry, small, bright, human. Suddenly, the hands let go. The light faded, replaced by warm arms and muffled voices. Congratulations, someone said far away. He's a healthy baby boy. I lay blinking in a world of sound and sensation, unable to remember who I'd been, unable to hold on to the memory of that endless darkness. But somewhere deep in my bones a whisper remained, a shiver at the edge of memory, a lingering fear of what waits just beyond. Epilogue. Most people can't remember the day they die. Most can't remember the day they are born. But I remember both, and I know that they are the same. When I close my eyes at night, sometimes I still see the Reaper, his cloak darker than memory, his scythe gleaming like hope. Not here to harvest me, but to shield me from the thing that waits in the dark, the thing that waits for all of us, each time we step between worlds. So if you find yourself, one night, drifting toward that last shore, don't be afraid of the Reaper's scythe. It's not there to take you. It's there to keep you safe, for as long as he can. Let me tell you about another restless night. The rules of Andale Tower. Some places are born wrong. They breathe a different kind of air. Their bones settle oddly beneath the city, heavy with the weight of stories that want to be forgotten. I've learned that when you find a place like that, you don't conquer it. You don't clean it or claim it. You live with it, the way you live with pain in an old scar, carefully, quietly, by following the rules. Part 1. Home among ruins. I am not homeless. I have a home. I just don't own it. But this place, Andale Tower, belongs to me as much as it belongs to anyone. In every city, there are abandoned buildings, empty towers, shells of lives half remembered. But the Andale high-rise is different. It isn't watched by the police. No gangs break bottles in its courtyard. No one leaves graffiti on its walls. It stands 28 stories tall, in a silent exile. People don't speak of it, except as a rumor or a warning. Even the local children, who dare each other into every broken place, avoid its shadow. On my first night in this city, I found the tower by accident. The double doors hung wide open, swallowing the streetlight. Inside, the air was heavy and damp, thick with mold and memory. Rain had seeped into everything. Ceiling tiles turned to mulch, elevator shafts flooded with brackish water, algae climbing the walls. The building had been left to rot, but it was shelter. So I moved in, and I learned the rules. Part 2. Shadows in the shaft. There are rules here, unspoken, yet absolute. Don't look up the elevator shaft after dark. If you do, you might see a shape peeking out, just out of sight, something that finds your curiosity amusing, something that likes to play games. If you play along, it starts to follow you, slipping through any open door. If it follows you, it never leaves. Don't linger in the flooded lobby at night. Sometimes the water glows faintly with reflections that don't belong to you. And sometimes, if you look closely, you'll see pale fingers reaching for the surface, desperate to grab whatever warmth remains in this world. Always walk quietly. Sound travels here in ways that don't make sense. A whisper on the 12th floor can echo in the stairwell, draw attention from things you don't want noticing you. Part 3. The curse of Andale. People tell stories about Andale. The curse, the children, the deaths. Most say it's just bad luck, but bad luck doesn't haunt a place for decades. Andale was built as government housing, meant to be a home for young mothers and their children. But the water on the roof turned poison, tainting everything. Babies died quietly in the night. Young mothers went to prison or slipped out of windows or simply vanished. 38 women condemned. 23 lost to their own despair. And even when the source was found, a tainted tank, a few pipes dripping lead, the deaths didn't stop. Children fell, disappeared, starved, or wandered away, never to return. No one came to help. No one wanted to remember. The building was closed, shuttered, bricked up. But Andale kept breathing. It never forgave. It never let go. Part 4. The philosopher's flat. Most who try to live here don't last. But I found a place, one apartment that feels safe. It belonged to a man I call the philosopher. He was here before me. He filled his home with notebooks, scribbled with stories of gods that hate to be named, of rituals and strange shapes caught in ice. He lost his wife long ago, and in his grief, he tried to write her back into existence. I found his letters written to a woman long dead, letters scrawled in ink, in blood, in filth, sometimes dated, sometimes not. Letters he claimed arrived by impossible means, delivered by rats, plucked from a tooth, woven by a spider with too many legs. He left symbols on the walls, wards, protections, or prayers. I don't know their meaning, but I trace them faithfully every few months, and so far, they keep me safe. That's rule number 1. Keep the marks fresh, the wards intact, and the door always locked after sundown. Part 5. The visitor's Andale draws strange pilgrims. Some come seeking bargains, others running from things worse than this. Most don't last the night. I do my morning sweep. Sometimes I find scraps of skin, broken nails embedded in the plaster, or a tooth in a light bulb still glistening. I clean what I can, say nothing, and keep the doors closed. Now and then someone offers money, 3,000 once, for the darkest corner in the tower. Not dark as in light, but dark as in forgotten. I took the man to a flat on the 8th floor, a triangle of a room. Shadow gathered thick in the cot, where something old and hungry waits beneath heavy blankets. He set up his ritual with homemade candles and wood, smiling as he worked. He told me he was searching for a better afterlife. When I left, I looked back once and saw a shadow in the cot, darker than the room itself. The next day, there was only the smell of burnt wax and a blurred, kneeling shape burned into the wall. Sometimes when I pass that flat, I see the shadow shift. Sometimes it turns to look at me. That's rule number 2. Don't stay when someone invites you to watch. When the ritual begins, leave. Never look back. Part 6. The scientist and the fungi. Others come. 2 men with plans, old professors with strange ideas. One set up next door to me, his flat overflowing with mushrooms and glass jars filled with living things. He fed the darkness in Andale, let it grow wild. His work became an infestation, mold gnawing at the walls, slime eating through the floors. In the end, he became a part of it, half grown into the concrete, eyes wide, mouth filled with algae, body trembling as small things gnawed at what was left of him. That's rule number 3. If something starts to spread through the walls, cut it out or burn it before it finds you. I did what I had to do. Called for help, waited for the hazmat suits to clear the worst of it away. But every now and then, I find bodies covered in fungal blooms, or see shapes sliding down into the flooded basement. Part 7. The fisherman and the flooded basement. The basement is another world, waterlogged, black as night, reaching down into darkness. A visitor came once, rod in hand, hoping to catch something from the primordial water. He paid me to sit with him, to watch the lines, to listen for movement. I ate and drank beside him, lulled by the silence. I fell asleep. When I woke, the sun was gone, and the tower was alive. The fisherman was gone. His hat floated on the water, then vanished beneath a slick, glistening shape. If you're caught in Andale after dark, you run. You climb the stairs, you hide, you wait for morning. That's rule number 4. Never fall asleep outside your flat. Never trust the quiet after sunset. Part 8. Encounters with the past. Sometimes, when the moon is high, I see them. Children peering from vents, ghosts drifting down the halls, eyes pleading, bodies flickering in and out of focus. And sometimes, just before dawn, I find muddy footprints outside my door. A woman waits for me, her face familiar, her form broken and decayed. The philosopher's wife. He wrote that he'd give everything to see her again. Every memory, every pain, every moment that made him who he was. She stands in the dark, lips stretched in a crooked grin, eyes hollow but somehow still longing. "My darling," she whispers, and her voice makes my heart ache with a loss I can't remember. Sometimes I think I must have known her once, long ago. But I don't remember much of my life before Andale. Just the cold, the hunger, the need to follow the rules. Part 9. The final rule. I've lived here so long I'm called the caretaker now. People treat me like I belong, as if I was always here. Maybe I was. Andale owns me as much as I own it. It keeps its secrets. It guards its dead. But I know the rules. Keep the wards fresh. Don't linger where you don't belong. Never stay for the rituals. Don't let the fungi grow wild. Never sleep outside after dark. And when you see the past staring back at you, don't follow it. Some nights, I check the peephole and see her waiting, sad and silent. It ought to terrify me, but it just makes me feel empty inside, like all the years before Andale have slipped away. Maybe that's the final rule. Some places are made of memories, and some places take them away. If you stay too long, the tower will hollow you out, and all you'll have left are the rules to keep you safe, and a silence that never truly ends. This next story comes from a shadowed place. The girl who was not Liza. There's a moment, just before waking, when the world feels unfamiliar. When you wonder if something in your life has been replaced subtly, silently, while you slept. Sometimes the feeling fades with the morning sun. Sometimes it lingers, and sometimes it never goes away at all. Part 1. The stranger in my house. The day my husband brought her home. It was raining, thin, silvery streaks painting our windows with patterns I almost recognized. I stood in the hallway, watching as he ushered her through the door. She wore Liza's favorite blue dress, the hem frayed where she'd once tripped chasing fireflies in the garden. She held Liza's school books, hugged tight to her chest. But she was not my daughter. She stared up at me with wide, frightened eyes, a pair of eyes too cautious, too knowing for a girl of 7. I felt my heart twist with a grief I'd thought was locked away. All I could do was stare. My husband's voice sounded distant, muffled by the rush of blood in my ears. "Honey," he said, soft and careful. "Is everything all right?" I looked from his face to the girl's, and I heard myself ask, "Who is this?" My voice trembled. "Where is Liza?" His expression tightened, the way it does when he thinks I'm on the verge again. The girl flinched, as if the question had struck her, and in her face I saw a shadow pass, fear, confusion, or guilt. I couldn't tell. Part 2. The chasm grows. What do you mean? My husband said too quickly. Are you feeling all right? The words hung between us like cobwebs. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He placed a hand on the girl's shoulder, gentle but possessive. He leaned in close, whispering something I couldn't hear. "Go on upstairs, honey," he said aloud. "Mommy's not feeling well." She didn't look back as she climbed the stairs, 2 at a time, as if afraid the house itself might swallow her if she lingered. I heard the door to Liza's room slam shut. The familiar ache in my chest flared into something sharp, electric. A memory flickered, Liza, laughing as she spun in circles, her hair catching the sunlight. But the laughter was gone, and all that remained was this stranger. Part 3. Medicated peace. My husband turned on me, his face a mask of concern and something harder. "You haven't been taking your medication," he said. "Don't deny it. I can see it in your eyes." I wanted to argue, to protest, but the words tangled in my throat. "I don't need them," I managed. "They make my mind cloudy." His frown deepened, the lines around his mouth etching darker. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Do you remember what happened the last time you stopped?" I looked away, but his words pulled me backward, into memories I tried desperately to avoid. Blood. Screaming. His voice raw with horror. "Look what you made me do. Look what you made me do." The room spun. My knees buckled, and before I knew it, I was in his arms, sobbing, gasping for air. He held me, shushed me, stroked my hair. "It's not real, honey," he whispered. "None of it is real. I promise." Part 4. The fuzzy haze. He carried me upstairs, laid me gently on our bed, and fetched the little tray of pills from the dresser. I took them one after another, feeling their cold bitterness spread through me. Already, my thoughts began to blur around the edges, softening, losing their sharpness. It was always like this, a gentle fog that descended, muffling the corners of my mind, making everything distant easier to endure, but not easier to understand. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the rain. I tried to remember what was true, what was real. Part 5. The silent bargain. I know that the girl is not Liza. I know it the way you know your own name, or the sound of your mother's voice in the dark. Her smile doesn't fit her face, her laugh is hollow, practiced. She wears my daughter's skin, but inside she's a stranger. And I know, too, that it isn't me who's lost touch with reality, it's him. My husband. He was the one who broke after Liza died. He was the one who found a replacement, a tiny girl stolen from some desperate family, and molded her into what he needed. He made her forget who she was. He made her become our daughter. But most of all, I know this. If I don't take the pills, if I let the truth slip through, if I shatter the delicate illusion he's built, he'll kill her. He'll erase her, just as he did the last time, and find a new child to fit the space where our real Liza used to be. So I let myself fade day after day into the quiet fog of forgetting. I play the part. I call her Liza, tuck her in, brush her hair. I watch my husband watch me, always alert, always ready for the lie to unravel. Ending. The unending loop. Sometimes, late at night, I wake and hear the little girl crying in her room. I want to go to her, to hold her, to tell her that she is not alone, that I remember, that I see her for who she really is. But I stay in bed, frozen by fear and chemicals and the certainty that one wrong word could doom us both. I hear my husband moving in the hallway, his footsteps slow and deliberate, listening at the door. I close my eyes, swallow my pills, and pray for morning. And I wonder, with each passing day, how long this can last. How many more daughters will come and go before the illusion cracks beyond repair. How many times I will wake and look into the eyes of a stranger wearing my daughter's smile. Sometimes, when the rain falls just right, I almost believe the lie. Almost. But not quite. Close your eyes as I share the next secret. 15 years with the Skinwalker. 15 years is a long time to spend behind concrete and steel. Long enough for strange stories to take root, and for the shadows to learn your name. Long enough to wonder if, sometimes, you're the one who's changing, or if something else is watching you change. In prison, you learn quickly that not every horror comes with a warning. Some of them move softly, in the quiet hours. Some of them even wear a familiar face. Part 1. The legend in the walls. It started with a story, like all things do, I suppose. By the time I arrived at the penitentiary in southern Arizona, the tale had already been told and retold, growing sharper in the retelling, like a knife passed from hand to hand. They called it the Skinwalker. Supposedly years before I got there, something awful happened during morning count. Each day, we'd stand by the front of our cells while the guards made sure we were all still present and accounted for. But on one particular morning, one of the men just didn't look right. The guard called another over, voices low and uncertain. What they found wasn't the prisoner they expected. It was a stranger, draped in a suit of loose, ill-fitting skin. Not a metaphor. Someone wearing another man's skin, empty and sagging, stitched with horror. And the worst part wasn't even the crime itself. It was that nobody could figure out who the intruder was. He wasn't a prisoner. He wasn't on any list. And the body of the man he'd imitated was simply gone. From that day on, the name stuck, the Skinwalker. Not exactly the old stories, maybe, but in prison, you take what monsters you can get. Part 2, Carl and the old stories. Not long after I'd heard the legend, I found myself sharing a table in the yard with Carl, an old Navajo lifer with a face like sun-baked stone and eyes that saw too much. Carl told us about real skinwalkers. He spoke softly, never quite meeting anyone's gaze, and as he talked, the air around us seemed to thicken. Skinwalkers, he said, are cunning. They can mimic a person's voice, their mannerisms, almost perfectly. But not quite. There's always something off, a twitch, a stumble, a pause that's a beat too long. Carl said that if a skinwalker ever found itself in a place with a constant stream of new faces, like a prison, it might choose to wait. Blend in, bide its time, mastering the art of being almost human. He called it the Grandmaster Skinwalker. Said he could feel it watching us, learning us, growing better at hiding every day. Some of the guys laughed it off. Others grew quieter, more careful with their words and with who they trusted. Part 3. Prison changes people, but even if you didn't believe in legends, you couldn't deny the things that happened. Every so often, someone would change. It wasn't like snapping, not in the way most people mean. No shouting, no violence, not at first. They'd just stop talking, go quiet, hunched, shuffling. They'd drift away from their friends, let their hair fall in their faces, mutter to themselves in the corners of the yard. It was as if something inside them was slowly being hollowed out. No one liked to talk about it. It felt dangerous, like saying the words might invite it to happen to you. And then within a week or two they'd be gone, shipped off or transferred, the guards said. But no one ever saw where they went. Part 4. Nighttime whispers. Nights in prison were the worst. When the lights dimmed and the long corridors fell quiet, that's when the strangeness truly crept in. Sometimes I'd hear a noise, a sound like metal scraping or a pig's dying squeal. The echoes would bounce off the concrete and fade into the silence. Worse still were the shadows. I'd lie on my bunk, eyes fixed on the wall, and see shapes flicker across the cinder blocks, moving too quickly, too quietly, to be anyone I recognized. One night, I awoke to see a silhouette, a perfect shadow, human-shaped, standing on the far wall of my cell. But when I looked around, my cellmate was fast asleep, and the corridor outside was empty. And then there were the footsteps. Fast, wet, slapping footsteps, racing up and down the block in the dark. They'd start on one end of the corridor, thunder past my cell in a heartbeat, and vanish into the gloom. No human could move that fast, not in that space. I'd hold my breath, heart pounding, waiting for the sound to return. Everyone hated the footsteps. Part 5. Near the end, my last week inside was the hardest. My cellmate, a friend, or as close as you could get in that place, started to change. He grew distant, stopped speaking. became a ghost in the bunk beneath mine, shuffling through his days like he was underwater. I barely slept, always half alert, never daring to turn my back on him. One night, I woke to the sound of him squeezing through the bars. For a moment, I thought I was dreaming. It was impossible. No one could fit through those narrow gaps. But there he was, thin as a shadow, sliding out, and then moments later, back in again. I didn't say a word. Neither did he. On my last morning, I packed my things in silence. As I left my cell, I saw him standing in the yard alone, head bowed, moving in that slow, unnatural way I'd come to dread. I didn't look back. Ending. Shadows that follow outside the walls, sunlight felt strange, too bright, too warm. But as I walked along the fence, something made me turn and look one last time at the yard. There across the yard, I saw Carl, old Carl, slouched and twitching, eyes moving over the crowd with a hunger that made my skin crawl. And for the first time, I wondered if Carl had always been Carl, or if the skinwalker had learned all it needed, slipping from body to body, leaving only stories behind. Now at night, sometimes I wake and think I hear footsteps, quick, wet, and unnatural, echoing just beyond my door. I remind myself I'm free, but the shadows never truly let you go. And sometimes, I wonder how many of us ever really left. Here's a story that might linger in your thoughts. My son asked me to check the closet for monsters. I didn't need to. There's a certain kind of quiet that settles in a house on the first night after a move. It's not the peaceful quiet of home, nor the silence of a place long abandoned. It's more of an uncertainty, a house holding its breath, waiting to see who you are and what you'll bring with you. Every floorboard seems to sigh underfoot. Every wall echoes with the memories of those who left before. That was the quiet that filled our new house. Just me, my son, and the long, echoing emptiness left behind by a life unraveling. I'd lost almost everything in the divorce, savings, furniture, even the kitchen table I'd spent years eating family dinners at. But as I looked at my son, his little body curled under unfamiliar blankets, I reminded myself I had the only thing that mattered. We were starting over, just the two of us. A new house, a new town, a chance to put the past behind us. I tried to see the hope in it, to believe that maybe, just maybe, we could build something better here, something that belonged only to us. The first night, sleep didn't come easily. The rooms were half-furnished and strange, every window rattling with the wind. The unfamiliar shapes of boxes and bags took on unsettling forms in the shadows, and the walls seemed to creak with secrets. But I kept telling myself it was normal. It would get better in time. It must have been a little after midnight when I heard him call out. His voice was soft and small, muffled by the door between us. "Daddy!" I stirred, halfway between waking and dreaming, and for a moment I wondered if I'd imagined it. But there it was again, a little louder, a little more urgent. "Daddy, can you come here?" I blinked in the dark, heart thumping with that instant parent's anxiety. The kind that makes you leap from bed even before your mind has caught up with your body. I hurried to his room, feet cold on the bare wooden floor. He was sitting up in bed, his eyes shining in the thin slice of moonlight that crept in through the window. He clutched his old stuffed dinosaur tight against his chest, small hands trembling just a little. "Hey, buddy," I whispered, kneeling beside him. "What's wrong?" He looked at me with wide, worried eyes. His voice was so small it barely reached my ears. "Daddy, can you check the closet for monsters?" I almost laughed, in spite of everything. Monsters in the closet, the oldest fear there is. But there was something about the way he said it that made me pause. His gaze didn't waver. He didn't smile or fidget. He just stared, past me toward the far corner of the room. That was when I felt it, a ripple of unease, like a cold breeze stirring the hairs on the back of my neck. Not because of what he'd said, but because, in that instant, something felt out of place. Off, in a way I couldn't quite name. I forced a smile, doing my best to be reassuring. Of course, champ. Gotta make sure no monsters snuck in with the boxes, right? But even as I said it, my mind was racing. You see, I had spent hours in this room. I'd cleaned every corner, assembled his little bed, arranged his toys along the shelves. I'd swept the empty walls with my tired gaze more times than I could count. I knew this room better than any other in the house. And I knew with absolute certainty that there was no closet. But now, in the dim blue haze, there was something. A door, where the wall should have been. It was old and gray, heavy with the kind of wood you don't see in houses anymore. The brass handle was dulled with age, and for a moment I wondered if I was just seeing things, if exhaustion and stress had finally caught up with me. But my son was still staring at it, clutching his dinosaur tighter, lips pressed together in a thin line. "Will you check?" he asked again, so softly I almost missed it. I swallowed, forcing down the fear that threatened to rise in my chest. "Of course, buddy. There's a thing that happens when you become a parent. You find yourself doing impossible things, carrying weight you never knew you could, braving fears you'd have run from before. You become, for them, the bravest person in the world. You make yourself into a shield." So I squeezed his shoulder and made my voice playful. "You wait here, okay? If there's a monster in there, I'll have to show it who's boss. Might get pretty loud." He smiled, just a little. "You'll kick its butt?" "Absolutely," I grinned, trying to sound braver than I felt. Monsters are terrified of dads. He slid out of bed, clutching his dinosaur, and made for the hallway just as I asked him to. I listened to his footsteps recede, making sure he was safely out of the room before I let my own mask slip. Now it was just me. And the closet. The air felt colder suddenly. The house was silent. I could hear my own breath, too quick, too loud in my ears. I reached for the door and stopped. Something was wrong. Not just wrong, impossible. There had never been a closet here. But the door was real. I could see the warped wood, the tarnished handle, the faint outline of dust on the floor where it met the boards. I leaned closer, half expecting the illusion to break, for the wall to reassert itself. But it stayed, solid, unyielding, as though it had always been there waiting. I didn't want to open it. Every instinct screamed at me to get my son and run, to leave this place and never look back. But then, from inside the closet, I heard it, a soft, slow creaking, as though something was moving within. The faintest whisper of breath, the rustle of fabric against wood. I stepped back, pulse hammering in my chest. No, this wasn't right. I forced myself to think. Get your son. Get out. Don't look back. I backed away, inch by inch, never turning my back on the closet. I slipped out into the hallway, heart pounding. My son was waiting there, small and shivering, looking up at me with wide, trusting eyes. "Everything okay, Daddy?" I scooped him up into my arms, his warmth grounding me, reminding me what mattered. "Yeah, champ. Everything's fine." I lied. I grabbed my keys and phone off the kitchen counter, half running toward the front door, trying not to let my panic show. I could hear, behind us, the slow, steady creak of the closet door opening. As we hurried outside, I made my voice light, even cheerful. "How about some late-night ice cream, buddy? Just you and me. We'll make it a celebration." He blinked, confused, but the word ice cream did its job. "To celebrate what?" he asked. I squeezed him close, feeling his heartbeat against mine. "To celebrate us, bud. Just us together. I love you." We drove off into the night, leaving the house behind, its windows dark and watching. We didn't go back that night, or the next. For days, I avoided the subject, trying to tell myself it was all just stress. Too many changes, too much loss, a mind stretched thin. I called the landlord, made excuses about needing repairs, anything to delay returning. But the image haunted me. That door, that impossible closet. At night, when my son was asleep, I found myself staring into the darkness, replaying every moment. I tried to convince myself it had been a trick of the light, a product of exhaustion and fear. But I couldn't shake the memory, the feeling, that something in that room had been watching us. Waiting. I remembered the way my son had looked at the closet, not with the wide-eyed fear of a child afraid of the dark, but with a quiet, careful dread, as though he knew it was real, as though he'd seen it before. And I remembered with a chill the certainty I'd felt that there was no closet in that room. Not until that night. I tried to ask him gently about what he'd seen. "Hey, buddy," I said one afternoon as we sat eating lunch in the little diner down the street. "Last night, when you asked about the closet, can you tell me what you saw?" He looked at me thoughtful, chewing his sandwich slowly. "I saw the door," he said, as if it was obvious. "What about it?" He frowned, eyes drifting to some distant place. There was a man inside. He was looking at me through the crack. I felt the world tilt under me. "A man?" He nodded, then shrugged. He had no face. I wanted to press him to ask more, but the words caught in my throat. No face. I wrapped my arm around him, pulling him close, and told him that everything would be okay. I wasn't sure I believed it. We never moved back into that house. In time, I found another place, smaller, older, but warmer somehow. We filled it with laughter and stories and new memories. My son grew, the nightmares faded, and sometimes I almost convinced myself it had all been a dream. But every now and then, as I tuck him into bed, I catch him glancing at the corners of his room. Sometimes he asks me to check the closet, even though now it's just a plain white door with nothing behind it but clothes and boxes and the dusty evidence of a normal life. And sometimes, when the house is quiet, I remember that night, the hush of the empty rooms, the weight of the darkness, the impossible door that wasn't there until it was. I wonder what would have happened if I'd opened it, if I'd seen what waited inside. I wonder how many other houses have doors that don't belong, doors that only open when you need to believe in them, or when something inside needs to come out. But most of all, I wonder what it means to be a parent in a world where monsters can make themselves real just by being believed in. So every night I check the closets. I check under the bed, behind the curtains, in every shadowed corner. I do it for him and for myself. And as I turn out the light, I whisper, soft and steady, "There's nothing here but us. We're safe." And I hope, for both our sakes, that it's true. Now the silence is broken by a new memory. I saw something on the evening news that I can't explain. Some nights have a feeling about them. Some strange undercurrent running beneath the hum of conversation and the clink of glasses. The air tastes different, the laughter sits heavier, and even the neon lights outside the windows seem to flicker with something unspoken. Looking back, I wonder if I should have known. If some part of me sensed what was waiting just beneath the surface, shifting quietly in the dark. It started so ordinary, just a Wednesday night at our regular pub, a little rough around the edges but comforting in its routine. The beer was cold, the company familiar. 4 of us, hunched around a small, battered table wedged into the corner like usual, talking shop, grumbling about the boss, telling the same stories we always did. Outside, the streetlights gleamed on rain-slick pavement, the world shrinking down to the warm, amber-lit safety of that little bar. There weren't many others there, a handful of regulars nursing pints, a couple sharing a quiet booth near the window. The kind of crowd that doesn't ask questions, that prefers silence to small talk. It could have been any other night. I remember Jessie, the bartender, flipping through the channels on the old TV behind the bar, her thumb moving lazily on the remote. I wasn't really watching, but my eyes drifted over the screen anyway, half catching flashes of local sports, a sitcom laugh track, a burst of dramatic music. Then the news channel flickered by, a sudden burst of orange and red, smoke billowing into the dusk sky. For a split second, it didn't register, just another fire, just another disaster unfolding somewhere else. But then a strange, crawling sensation twisted in my stomach. Something about the angle of the shot, the shape of the windows, the way the light hit the brickwork, felt familiar. Uncomfortably so. "Hey Jess, can you go back?" My voice sounded too loud, breaking the gentle lull of the bar. The news came back, filling the screen with images of fire. And I saw it, clear as day. My building, burning. I didn't say anything at first, not really. It's like my mind refused to process it, as if it might flicker away if I didn't name it. But the camera panned to a wide shot of the street, smoke tumbling into the sky, the glow of flames licking at the upper floors. There were the familiar shop signs, the dry cleaner I never used, the convenience mart where I bought late-night snacks, the property management office I'd visited just once, desperate to get a broken radiator fixed. My home, now a backdrop for disaster. "Holy shit," I finally said, voice small and flat. "That's my apartment." For a moment, the whole bar seemed to go still. Even Jessie froze, remote in hand. My friends looked at me, then back to the TV, unsure whether to laugh or comfort, caught between concern and disbelief. The reporter's voice droned in the background, all business and urgency. Firefighters are expected on scene any moment, and hopefully they'll be able to contain this inferno before it spreads any further. It's fortunate that everyone was able to evacuate the building before things got too bad. A friend muttered something, sympathy, a weak joke, but it all sounded far away. My apartment was halfway up, west side, the same windows I looked out of every morning, now shrouded in smoke. I held on to hope, irrational as it was, that maybe it wouldn't reach my unit. Maybe all I'd lose was some furniture, some clothes. Maybe all I'd have to do was call my sister, sleep on her couch for a few nights, and then life would slowly piece itself back together. The camera cut to a reporter standing across the street, orange glow reflecting in his glasses, the shops below my building a ghostly backdrop. But as he spoke, something changed. "Hang on a moment, we're getting updated information," he said, earpiece pressed tight to his head. "It appears there's someone still inside the building. Can we adjust the camera to the west side, about halfway up?" The camera's view lurched and shuddered, moving from the flames at the top of the building to a small, solitary square of light, one of the only windows still glowing against the darkness. I started counting. 5 floors up, 2 windows over. That was my apartment. The lights were on. I felt a chill crawl up my arms. I was sure I'd turned them off before I left. The camera zoomed in, slowly, shakily, like a hesitant finger prodding at a wound. And then I saw it. There was someone standing in my window. At first, it was just a shadow, a figure outlined against the pale glow of my old floor lamp. My breath caught. I couldn't make out any features, just a shape moving. Moving in a way that was wrong. My friends had gone silent. The bar felt suddenly colder, the hush around me growing heavy. The figure in the window began to move, jerky at first, then with a bizarre, rhythmic grace. Its arms lifted, waving back and forth, over and over. It pressed its hands against the glass, then beat them in time. 1, 2, 3, 4, never breaking the pattern, never pausing to rest. Then it began to jump, arms raised, a grotesque pantomime of someone trying to get help. But there was no desperation in the movement, no panic. It was performing. A reporter's voice chattered on, describing a lone resident trapped by flames, urging viewers to stay tuned for updates. My friends leaned in, staring, unable to look away. And then the camera zoomed closer. I saw more details, the shape of its head, the outline of its clothes. It was wearing my shirt, my jeans. It looked like me. For a moment, the world seemed to slow to a crawl. I was looking at myself, standing in the window of my burning apartment, dancing to a rhythm only it seemed to hear. But there was something wrong with its face. The eyes, huge black, too wide, bulged out of its head. Its mouth twisted into a cartoonish mask of terror, as though it was pretending to be afraid, as though it wanted to be seen. A cold dread spread through my chest. Someone in the bar gasped. No one spoke. The thing in the window kept moving, faster now. Waving, swaying, pressing its hands to the glass, its head thrown back in mock agony. Then it stopped, suddenly, as if it had heard something behind it. The camera held steady on the window. The door behind the figure, my door, opened with a violent jerk. Firefighters, I thought, rushing in to save whoever they believed was trapped. The thing's expression changed. The fear dropped away like a mask slipping, replaced by a monstrous grin, wide and sharp and full of enormous pointed teeth. It pressed its face against the glass, eyes staring straight into the camera. And then, all at once, the lights in my apartment flickered out. The window went dark. For a long, terrible moment, no one in the bar said a word. We just sat there, watching as the camera zoomed out, the burning building shrinking back into a nameless backdrop for the evening news. I don't remember how we paid our bill. I barely remember gathering my things, stumbling out into the cool, damp air. My friends offered weak goodbyes, but I barely heard them. I walked the long way to my sister's apartment, every shadow on the street shifting and twitching in my peripheral vision. I told her there'd been a fire, that I needed to stay with her for a while. She didn't ask questions. She just made up the couch and let me be. Later that night, I tried to find footage from the news broadcast. It was everywhere at first, clips of the fire, shots of the building, interviews with witnesses. But the part one remembered, the part with the figure in my window, was gone. Edited out. Erased. I watched the clips over and over, but they always cut away just before the camera panned to my apartment. It was as if it had never happened. But I know what I saw. I know that something wore my face, danced in my clothes, and smiled out at the world with teeth made for tearing. I don't know if the firefighters found anything in my apartment. I don't know if anyone else remembers that moment, or if the thing in the window meant to be seen. But I know deep in my bones that some doors, once opened, can never be shut again. And sometimes when I close my eyes, I see it standing in the window, waving, waiting, swaying to a rhythm that only I can feel. If you ever see yourself staring back from a burning building, don't go home. Let it burn. Let's settle in for another tale of dread. The climb somewhere in the dark between waking and sleep, between memory and forgetting. I found myself standing in a room that should not exist. There was no sound except the stuttering of my own heart, no color except the steel blue gleam of metal walls pressing close, as if the room itself were holding its breath. Above me the ceiling was gone, replaced by an endless, inky void, blacker than night, hungrier than silence. It swallowed light and thought alike, leaving only a suffocating emptiness that stretched forever. I felt as small as a single drop of water in a fathomless sea. In front of me, my mother. strung up and crucified to a makeshift wooden cross, her body trembling, her wrists pierced by rough steel rivets, rope biting into her ankles, her shoulders strained and shaking with the effort of just existing. Her eyes, taped open, red and raw, locked onto mine. They shimmered with terror, and beneath that, with something else, hope, maybe, or forgiveness. Her mouth was sewn shut, crude black thread crisscrossing her lips, each line a boundary, each knot a denial. Yet still, through the pain, she tried to speak. Soft, muffled sounds, my name maybe buried in all the suffering. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Low, monotonic, unwavering. I want you to kill her. It vibrated through the air, but also inside me, inside the marrow of my bones, inside the seams of my memories. It sounded like something ancient, something that had waited centuries just to ask this question. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't scream. All I could do was look, trembling, at the woman who had nursed my fevers, held my hand when I was afraid, sat by my bed when nightmares made me cry. I looked down. At my feet was a surgical tray, gleaming in the soft gloom. Instruments arranged in a neat row, each one promising a different kind of hurt. A scalpel, shining like winter moonlight. A length of coarse rope, knotted at one end. A pistol, black and heavy with the promise of finality. Razor blades, sharp as grief. A scatter of syringes, each one filled with something cloudy, poisonous, and unknowable. End her, the voice pressed, a velvet threat sliding around my heart. I reached, hesitantly, mechanically, for a razor blade. My hands shook so violently I could barely close my fingers around the cold steel. I stepped forward, my whole body shuddering with terror and revulsion. And still her eyes found me. Still her eyes forgave me. I pressed the blade against the black stitches at her lips, hands trembling so hard the blade almost slipped. I tried not to look at the pain flickering in her eyes, but I couldn't look away. I couldn't look away from the woman who had never left me, not once, even in my darkest hours. The first stitch snapped, then another, and another. My mother whimpered, a sound somewhere between pain and relief. Her jaw flexed, and blood bloomed around the wounds, but her mouth was free. Her lips trembled. Tears streamed down her cheeks. For a moment, she just breathed. She looked at me, with all the sorrow and all the love in the world. Then finally, her voice broke through, raspy and small. Climb. I froze. My eyes darted to the ladder, impossibly tall, impossibly thin, reaching up into the darkness above. Each rung shrouded in shadow, fading into nothing. Climb, she whispered again, voice shaking but certain. It was like a spell, like a word that held the weight of a lifetime. I didn't know what waited for me above. I only knew that I had to go. She nodded gently, as if letting me go was the hardest thing she'd ever done. I love you, she mouthed, a whisper I felt more than heard. I love you too, Mum, I choked out. And I realized, as the tears blurred my vision, that I had not said that enough. Maybe none of us do. The voice in the void said nothing more. Its work was done. With the razor blade still pressed in my palm, I turned away from the cross and stepped to the foot of the ladder. The rungs were cold, slick with something I did not want to name. But I gripped them and I climbed. The climb I climbed through darkness thicker than sleep, through silence that hummed with the memory of every secret I'd ever kept. Each rung was a memory, and every memory weighed heavy. I climbed past the echoes of old arguments, my mother's words twisting with worry. I climbed through sick days and sleepless nights, through the sound of her voice humming lullabies in the dark. I climbed through the days I had failed her, forgotten birthdays, careless words, doors slammed in anger. My arms ached, and still I climbed. Sometimes the ladder shook. Sometimes I thought I heard the voice again, whispering doubts, telling me to look back, to fall. But I did not look down. I could not. I would not. Above me somewhere a sliver of light. My mind wandered as I climbed, because climbing was all there was. Time lost its meaning. Was it minutes or hours or days? I didn't know. I only knew the ache in my muscles, the fire in my lungs, the way my heart thudded with each pull upward. My vision blurred with tears. My breath caught in my throat. But always I heard my mother's voice, gentle, urging, loving, keep going. I'm with you. Always. I climbed through old wounds and fresh regrets. Through the memory of my first heartbreak, the cold shock of betrayal. Through the emptiness that settled in my chest after loss, after failure, after every goodbye. I climbed because I had no choice but to climb. Because somewhere, in the space between worlds, a mother's love was the only light strong enough to break the dark. The air grew lighter. The blackness began to thin, like mist dissolving in sunlight. My hands, raw and bleeding, reached for a final rung, a rung made of hope, of forgiveness, of longing. I pulled myself up, out of the dark. Awakening the world was suddenly bright, dazzling. I blinked, blinded, gasping for breath. It took a long moment to realize where I was, on my back in my own bathtub, still clutching the razor blade in my fist, blood welling along the edge of my palm. A frantic knocking rattled the bathroom door. "Are you all right in there? Your sister called. We're worried about you." It was my mother's voice. Real. Alive. I pulled myself up, legs trembling. I placed the razor blade back on the shelf, feeling the sting in my hand, the echo of pain in my heart. I opened the door. She stood there, tears in her eyes, arms open. She held me and I held her, and together we sobbed, grief and relief and love all tangled together. "I wouldn't know how to live without you," she whispered. And for the first time I believed her. I realized that the climb had not ended. It had only just begun. And this time I would not climb alone. Listen as another story unfolds. They told me I was nothing but a dog. They named me Laika. Not because they loved me, not because I reminded them of something warm or playful. No, it was never a name meant to be cherished. It was a collar, a reminder of what I was beneath, what I was allowed to be. Nothing but a dog. My father liked to say the word with a sneer. To him, Laika was a joke at my expense, an insult repeated so many times it lost all meaning. But I grew up learning about the other Laika, the real one. The stray from Moscow, sent to orbit the Earth in Sputnik 2, her fur pressed against cold steel and her heartbeat echoing in a silent capsule, circling a planet that would never remember her as more than an experiment. The Soviets launched her into the unknown, with no plans to bring her home. Laika was not meant to survive. She was sent, as they told me, because she was expendable, lesser, beneath, nothing but a dog. For years I imagined her final moments, the metal growing hot, the air thinning, confusion settling in her bones. Did she wonder what she'd done wrong, as she drifted into the stars, as everything she'd just learned of kindness and warmth was replaced by an endless cold? Did she think, in her last terrified minutes, that she'd been a bad dog? Punishment is my mother tongue. It's the language my father spoke, the first sound I recognized. He never used words to teach, only punishments. Sometimes sharp and sudden, sometimes slow and simmering, but always a lesson for being who I was. And if you survive enough punishments, you learn to live with them. But there's something you never get used to. Not really. Fear. Because in the old world, in forgotten forests and cold valleys, there are things older than kindness and crueler than pain. There are monsters who wear human faces. There are fathers and there are grandfathers. Inheritance. My grandfather, Pavel, had many bodies. He was not a ghost, but a thing that wore bodies as if they were coats. Sometimes he was a thin old man, sometimes a heavy one. Once, to my horror, he wore the body of my mother. I remember running to her in joy, only to meet his flat, yellow eyes peering out of her ruined sockets. I screamed. Father slapped me hard enough to rattle the teeth in my head. "Shut up, dog." I learned early how to crawl away, how to disappear beneath the stairs with nothing but my shame and my fears for company. Some nights, as my body shook with tears, I'd leave myself, float up past the dirty beams, drift into the sky, follow the path of Lycus' doomed orbit, and I'd pretend I could pet her fur and tell her she wasn't alone. Sometimes, if I squeezed my eyes shut, I could almost feel her, warm and alive, curled beside me, even if only for a heartbeat. Alexander, when grandfather, wearing my mother's face, gave birth to a baby boy with my father's black curls and those same, hard yellow eyes, father did what he always did. He took the baby out into the cold. But I found him, shivering and red with birth, by a snowdrift. I named him Alexander. I took him home. My father hated me for it. He tried to take Alexander away, but grandfather only smiled, his true smile shining through my mother's bruised face. Let the dog keep her pup. We have other concerns. So I raised Alexander. I fed him scraps. I clothed him in rags. I loved him because there was no one else left to love, and in return, he gave me something pure, a reason to endure. He never learned to speak, but we understood each other. I taught him my language, the language of gestures, glances, and patience. If it weren't for him, I would have faded away like a cold shadow on the floor. The chapel, but in that house there was no peace. Every week, my father brought strangers to grandfather. Grandfather waited until night. He hated the sun, and then he'd take them to his chapel. An ancient stone church crouched at the foot of the woods, its red windows glowing with secrets. Inside, corpses kept silent watch, sitting straight-backed on cracked pews. Sometimes I'd hear the screams long after night fell. But I was just a dog, and dogs do not go into chapels. Dreams and hauntings, but nightmares can follow you anywhere. And sometimes, when I woke, the dead would follow me home. Once Alexandra, the little girl whose baby shoes my father kept, came to me, her skin blistered and weeping, her eyes burned away, dressed in blue, dripping oil. She climbed into my bed and clung to Alexander, and I let her stay, because I did not know how to send her away. When my father saw her, he was terrified and dragged us to grandfather's chapel. "Look what she can do," he pleaded. But grandfather just laughed. "A weak bitch. Our hope is in the boy." It was always in the boy. After that, father only looked at me with more bitterness, more regret. He wanted to protect me, but he was too broken, and I was too much my own. Lost one winter, I tried to leave. I took Alexander, and we ran through the woods, hoping that grandfather wouldn't notice until morning. He noticed. Grandfather appeared in a flash of dark, glittering skin, ripped Alexander from my arms, and tore out his throat. The snow ran red. My brother, my child, was gone. I howled at the sky. I begged the stars for mercy. No one answered. Laika, but when the pain was too much, when I could not bear it a second longer, Laika came to me. Her face was bright with starlight, her fur soft and real against my hands. She fought for me, fought for my soul, biting and clawing at grandfather, even as she bled from 1,000 wounds. But grandfather was immortal. He slid inside Alexander's corpse and made it stand, and made it snarl, and made it hurt me. Father came with a gun. He shot and shot and shot, and when Alexander finally fell, grandfather slithered out, small, desperate, afraid for the first time. Leica pinned him in the snow, and Father shot again as the sun crested the hills. That was the end of Grandfather. Father ended himself, too. Leica faded, her starlight slipping through my fingers. After I gathered what remained, tiny glowing motes from her fur, and I walked away. I do not call the dead anymore. I do not create monsters from my pain. I keep to myself, quiet and small, and sometimes, in my dreams, I sail the stars with Leica beside me, looking down on the world untouchable. Because it is better to be a dog, to be simple and loving and loyal, than to become a monster in the end. And so I will always be Leica, just a dog, nothing more. And that finally is enough. Here's a tale to keep you company in the dark. Conversation with a stranger on the bus. It was just another evening on the bus. The hum of the engine, the world blurring past rain-streaked windows, and the gentle press of headphones over my ears. I always liked that hour, that space between work and home when you could just drift, anonymous, in the crowd. Routine. Comforting in a way. So when I felt a tap on my shoulder, I half expected it to be someone asking for the time, or maybe directions. Instead, it was a man a little older, with a face weathered by years, eyes a bit too bright, and a faded blue cap pulled low over his brow. I slipped off one side of my headphones. Huh? He smiled, yellowed teeth showing through cracked lips. I said, I like your boots. I glanced down, work boots, scuffed and sturdy, the same kind I'd worn since I started at Turner Construction. Oh, thank you, I said, feeling awkward but polite. He nodded. Had a bunch like him myself. Good working boots. The kind that'll last a lifetime, right? I smiled back. They definitely are. I use them every day on the job. He seemed pleased with that, leaning back a little in his seat. Where's that at? Turner Construction, I replied, the words almost automatic by now. He gave a knowing nod. You're with that crew putting up the big one on East Avenue, aren't you? Tallest in the city when it's done. You must be proud. Yeah, I guess so. It's a lot of work. He laughed softly, like he'd heard that answer before. Oh, I remember those days. My papa ran a small construction and carpentry business. Put me to work as soon as I could hold a hammer. This was back when your mama was probably just a kid, you know. He grinned wider. We built houses. Just houses, never anything as big as yours. But that was good enough. There was a lull, rain tapping on the window, the bus sighing at a stoplight. Did you like it? I asked, mostly to be polite, but a little curious. Oh, you bet I did, he replied, voice going soft, almost nostalgic. Working with your hands, you feel like you built the bones of the world. And all the perks that came with it. Perks? I echoed. He paused, then leaned in closer, voice lowering just a touch. Can you keep a secret, son? I hesitated, but nodded. Sure. He chuckled, a dry sound. You ever play in a construction site as a kid? I grinned, remembering muddy sneakers and the thrill of unfinished places. Yeah. My friends and I explored every frame, every crawl space. Felt like we were kings of the world back then. He nodded, his eyes growing distant. Same for me. But the real perks came later, when I was older. When I was a man. His voice dropped even lower. Imagine it's the 80s, no phones, no one checking in on you. You meet a pretty girl at a bar, and you tell her about the new house you're building. She wants to see it, of course. You take her there at night, just you and her, no one else around. He smiled, but something in his eyes had gone cold. People think it's all romance. But sometimes you need somewhere private. Somewhere no one will ever find. A chill crawled up my spine, but I tried to play along. I guess it beats taking someone home, huh? Private, sure, he said, but more than that. You see, son, there are things you can do in a half-built house. Things you'd never want to do anywhere else. And then when you're done, you cover it all up. Pose a foundation. Lay the floor. By morning, there's nothing but a house and a memory, and maybe not even that. The bus shuddered, slowing as we neared his stop. He stood, tugging the brim of his cap lower over his eyes. He patted my shoulder as he passed, his hand rough and cold. Take care of those boots, son. They've got a lot of history under them. He stepped off the bus, vanishing into the rain and city lights. I sat frozen, my hands suddenly clammy. A memory surfaced, blurry and distant, from a childhood summer spent in my old neighborhood. Hide and seek in the crawl spaces under unfinished houses, the earth cold and damp beneath my hands. I remembered the boots, pairs and pairs of them, half buried in the dirt, hidden under beams and old tarps. The same kind of boots I wore now. We found them in every house, my friends and I. Sometimes one, sometimes two, always caked with red dust and silence. The bus rumbled on, and I watched the city blur past, my boots suddenly feeling too tight, too heavy with old secrets. The stranger's words echoed in my ears long after the ride was over. Some stories ride with you, even after you step off the bus. Next comes a story wrapped in shadows. The blanket-weighted blankets are supposed to help. That's what I'd always heard, soft, thick, heavy with reassurance. Like being cradled. The gentle comfort of pressure, lulling anxious minds into sleep. These days, you see ads everywhere, soft voices on late-night radio, testimonials whispered from beneath perfect, undisturbed sheets. It's all about comfort. We'll pay anything for comfort. Maybe that's the loneliest part. I suppose my life wasn't uncomfortable, exactly, not anymore. Not physically. I'd survived the worst already. The silence left behind when my wife and children disappeared 2 years before. It was the kind of vanishing that splinters the world. One moment a house is warm and bright, the next only dust and echoes. In time, I packed up that little house in the suburbs and let the real estate agents box up their laughter and faint scent of perfume. I moved into an apartment by the train tracks, not far from work, just me and the hollow sound of passing freights at night. The police, the caseworkers, the therapists, they had all done their part, propping me up, holding me together with medication and routine. But sleep had become something foreign, fragile, gone. I saw an ad online for a weighted blanket. They make promises. Deep comfort for the restless. Feel held. Feel safe. It sounded like a mercy. Something to give my body back to the night, to let my mind find its way through dreams. I ordered one, a queen size, though there was no queen beside me now. Prime shipping, next day delivery. Technology has a way of pretending it's magic, but it never feels like magic when it arrives. The box didn't arrive at my door, though. Instead, I found a rough package clumsily tied, halfway between the parking lot and my doorstep. The paper was coarse, stained, and the string was frayed and burned at the edges. It didn't feel like a package, more like something that had washed ashore after a long journey through storms. For a while, I just stared at it, rain spattering against the window behind me, the lights of my neighbor's television flickering in the dark. I told myself it was nothing. I forced a smile. Just a blanket, I whispered. A present from a kind universe. But even saying it, I didn't believe myself. It took hours before I worked up the will to open it. The gin helped, dulling the ache that curled under my ribs. The paper tore away with an odd reluctance, fibers clinging to the string. Inside was a cube of blue microfiber, soft, thick, familiar, as if it belonged on someone else's bed. It smelled faintly chemical, like a memory of clean hotels and distant cities. The tag was smeared, but I draped the blanket across my bed anyway, telling myself I'd wash it tomorrow. That night, for the first time in years, I slept through until morning. I woke blinking, tangled in blue, sunlight golden and unexpected on my face. For a moment, I'd forgotten everything. For a moment, I felt held. The days blurred. Each night, I slid beneath that heavy softness. Each night, dreams came easier. Some nights I dreamed of my children laughing, of my wife's hand brushing my cheek, of the house we'd left behind filled with sunlight and echoes. Each morning, the blanket felt heavier, somehow more insistent. The comfort grew dense, almost smothering. But the sleep was worth anything. It took weeks before I noticed the smell. It crept up on me slowly, a faint bitterness that clung to my skin and sheets. No matter how many showers I took, it lingered. At work, I caught my own scent in the office bathroom, sharp and metallic, and felt shame flush through me. I bought detergents, sprays, new sheets, but nothing worked. When the dry cleaner refused the blanket, waving a metal detector and shaking her head, feeling wrong. Can't clean. Try spray. I tried not to feel insulted. I drove home, the blanket in the back seat, and listened to the whisper of the road. It sounded almost like the hush of voices, too low to make out. I told myself it was nothing. I sprayed the blanket with perfume and Febreze and slept on, dreaming of arms around me and soft laughter at my ear. Months slipped by in this strange cocoon. People at work commented on the smell. Megan, my manager, gave me a sideways look one morning and suggested, gently, kindly, but firmly, that I check the laundry machine, in case something's died in there. I laughed. Too hard, maybe. That night, I sat in bed with the blanket pulled around me, staring at the folds and the thick seams. The smell was overwhelming now, something sour and old, ancient. I knew I couldn't keep it, but I couldn't throw it away. It was comfort, and comfort, when you have nothing else, becomes the only thing left to protect. Another dry cleaner told me in a slow Boston drawl, sometimes they fill these with glass beads or other things. Little bits of metal if a machine goes wrong. You could cut it open, clean it, sew it back up. I didn't know how to sew. He shrugged, unconcerned. You can get a funnel on Amazon. Few bucks. A week later, the funnel arrived. The night felt especially cold as I carried the blanket to the bedroom, a bucket set out on the floor. The house was silent, no footsteps above, no laughter from another room, only the distant drone of a television behind a neighbor's wall. I took scissors, hands trembling, and made a small incision along the seam. I expected a whisper of beads, a gentle clatter. Instead, something heavy dropped into the bucket with a dull thunk. I knelt, heart pounding, and looked in. A ring. Gold, old, scarred with scratches. A fingerprint carved into it, impossibly familiar. My own, twisted and stretched into metal. A sliver of flesh, dry and shriveled, clung to the band. I didn't need to see the inscription inside. I already knew the words, to love's eternal glory. A wave of dizziness washed over me, and I sat hard on the edge of the bed, the blanket slipping from my lap. As it slid, more things tumbled out, pieces, fragments, teeth that rang out against plastic, hair tangled around bone, a child's finger still wrapped in a faded Hello Kitty Band-Aid. I remembered that Band-Aid. I remembered the way my daughter had wailed after scraping her finger on a splintered door, the way she had clung to me, trusting. I remembered laughter, sticky with tears, and the solemnity with which I'd wrapped her tiny hand. Now that same finger lay before me, yellowed, impossibly small. I stared. The blanket slumped in my lap, heavy as regret, heavy as grief. I don't remember much of what happened after that. I remember calling the police, my voice distant and flat, like listening to someone else speak underwater. I remember the officers, their grim faces pale in the gray light, the way they picked through the fragments with gloved hands and gentle murmurs. There were no answers. The cameras at my apartment showed only a van, unmarked, unremarkable, its plates blank. The package could not be traced. Amazon showed proof that their blanket had shipped correctly. A mix-up, they said. A rare, impossible error. They offered me a refund. In-store credit. I threw out everything after that. The Echo, the phone, the sheets. I canceled my Prime account and unplugged every screen. I sleep on the floor now, under a plain wool blanket from a second-hand shop. Sometimes in the darkest part of the night, I wake to the memory of weight pressing down on me, warm and comforting, almost loving. Sometimes I still hear laughter from the other room. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I wonder if it was comfort I was really searching for at all, or if I was only ever trying to feel the weight of what I lost, holding me down, holding me close one more night.